Alright guys, it's me, ZBook Computes, and today's video we're going to be seeing how well this 8-year-old workstation can play, okay? Can play modern games. So, this right here is an HP ZBook G2. There's a little bit of tape on it. Alright, but as you can see here, it's a thick old laptop. Not going to say what year it is from just yet, but yeah, as you can see here, it is quite feature-packed. It is also very, very thick, much thicker than my HP Pavilion G6. It's also very heavy, so I'm going to go ahead and put it down. Alright, but anyway, so, this is a workstation released in the hip year of 2014, okay? Came out solely in the Windows era, Windows 8 era, and yeah, let's go and get on with the features of this laptop, shall we? Alright. So, first off, it has the most important feature of a laptop, backlit keyboard, baby. Look how bright it is, too. Alright, let's go and let this thing boot up. Okay, so, anyways, yes, this does have a dedicated NVIDIA GPU. We'll go and get on with the specs later, though, right? Let's get on with the features first. So, first off, I had to black that out there for a second. This has a matte 1080p IPS display, okay? It's a bit flickery. Please stop flickering. There you go. Thank you. Alright, anyway, so this has a 1080p IPS display. I rarely get to use 1080p IPS displays, okay? Because all my laptops are freakishly old, okay? It's the only way to describe it. Alright, but anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about more features of this laptop. So, next off, this is a 720p webcam, okay? It's not the worst, but it's also not the best. It's alright, okay? And also, in terms of the charger, it uses the same charger as my HP Pavilion G6. You see here, HP in 2015, late 2014, switched to using the thinner barrel charger instead of the big one, okay? Because, I mean, they had Ultrabooks, which I will be taking a look at one in the future video. Wink, wink. And, yeah. So, yeah, they had Ultrabooks and, you know, yeah. And also, let's go and talk about that, okay? So, this right here has a little nub, okay? I have never used a nub before, and you know, it'll be an experience. It also has 3 trackpad buttons here for some reason. I think this is just for like the middle click. And also, if you're wondering, yes, it does have a fingerprint sensor, and yes, I did accidentally break it in the teardown, but it's fine, okay? Because I have a second one of these, so we're just gonna eventually scalp the fingerprint sensor from it, or just, you know, steal it. Alright. But yeah, honestly, like, this thing is pretty awesome, alright? It's 60 hertz, unfortunately, but it is still pretty good. This is a 17-inch 1080p screen. This is better than my modern $500 HP laptop. Like, holy crap. Not only that, but since this is a business-based machine, it's got metal. It's got a metal chassis, okay? When have you ever seen HP of this high quality, okay? This thing, back in the day, was praised for its performance and its power, okay? And it has a full, well, not a full desktop, but it's got a really, really high-end mobile i7, okay? So let's go and get on with the specs, shall we? Okay, so this HP ZBook 15G2 packs 16 gigabytes of DDR3 1600 MHz quad channel memory. So 4 times 4 sticks of RAM, alright? It's also got, for CPU, an i7-4700MQ at 2.4 GHz base clock with a 3.4 GHz boost clock with 4 cores and hyper-threading. It's got a 500 GB SATA3 SSD, so pretty fast storage, you know, for an old laptop like this. It's also got Intel HD 4600 graphics and dedicated NVIDIA Quadro K610M graphics, which is on par to a GT 720, which not great, but it'll do in a pinch. Oh, and also before I start the general usage benchmarks, I just want to show you guys this. This doesn't have a single HDMI port. It's only got a display port right here in a Thunderbolt. So yeah, unfortunately, screen capturing this thing is going to be a nightmare because I have to use a display port to an DisplayPort HDMI adapter for my capture card, which I only have one of, which is currently used in my main PC. So yeah. Let's go and get on with the benchmarks, general usage ones. Alright, so for this bit of the video, we're going to be testing general usage benchmarks, alright? So let me just go ahead and open up YouTube here. I'm pretty sure it just opened up twice, oops. Alright, but anyway, so let's go ahead and see how well this thing does in YouTube, alright? Now, from what I've seen, I love Muya's AK video, by the way, it's just a good testing place. Alright, but anyway, so from what I've seen, this thing should be able to handle 4K 60 FPS, okay? Let's head over to the evening cruise. And also, sound will be disabled, obviously, because I don't want to get copyright strike by Muye for including audio. Alright, let's go ahead and see here. Let's go and head over to Stats for Nerds. This may lag the video a bit, so if we do drop a few frames here, don't expect it to, you know, stay the same in Stats for Nerds. Oh, and also, I will be overclocking the GPU during the gaming benchmarks. Ooh, okay, 4K 60 is just a little too much for this boy. What about 1440p 60? This should be well, because this is a high-end 4th Gen i7, okay? And this NVIDIA Quadro K610M, it's weak, but it should be able to do some video acceleration. Ooh, this looks smooth. Okay, 1440p 60 may be where this is. Yeah, 0 frames dropped. Okay, so 1440p 60 FPS is where you want to be watching. And which, for this 1080p IPS panel, is great, okay? It's definitely good enough. Alright. The dumbest drivers ever. That's kind of funny. Alright, but yeah, as you can see here, for 1440p 60 FPS, you are A-okay, okay? Let's go and see how well this thing loads in, I don't know, let me think here. Alright, let me just think of a good site here. Alright, let's go and see how well it runs apple.com, okay? Let's press enter. Now, so that 16 gigs of RAM is definitely really quick. Oh yeah, that loaded up instantly. My Wi-Fi was the bottleneck there. So yeah, in terms of web browsing, this thing is perfect. But I mean, what do you expect? It's a high-end 4th Gen i7. It's not even like the U series processors. It's the MQ, so yeah. Let's click on iPad here. Let's say we want to buy an iPad. Honestly, I don't want to buy anything Apple related. I'm just using this as a test, okay? I'm not a fan of Apple at all. Which I will be answering in my Q&A video, which should be uploaded soon. I'm not sure. But as you can see here, it's able to handle all those demanding sites pretty darn well. Let's head over to there. And let's go ahead and, you know, just like show this off here. What happens if we try and duplicate this tab? Oh, I forgot. I got go into settings here. Yeah, just heads up, if you want to do that, you always gotta check that box. But yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and do this as quickly as possible because I'm already wasting your time here. Alright, duplicate tab, duplicate it. Yeah, our CPU is starting to get a little bit stressed out at 50%, but it is still going strong, okay? Not only that, but the battery works. Oh, wait, I haven't even plugged it in yet. Alright, there you go. It is now plugged in, and it is going strong, okay? This thing can run this stuff like a beast. Alright, let's go and head over back to YouTube here. Alright, I want to see if there's any difference between the performance here of plugged in and not plugged in. So let's see if it can now do 4K 60 FPS. My god. Oh yeah, I forgot. They made it so that YouTube the ad blockers don't work anymore. That's unfortunate. Alright, so we're at 1440p 60. Head over. I'm such an idiot. 4K. CPU is definitely getting stressed. Oh yeah, 100% of all cores. It's running a little better, but still 4K 60 is not it. Alright, but yeah, as you can see here, it can handle a lot of intensive websites pretty darn well. And as I say that, Firefox crashes. That's more of a Firefox thing though than, you know, this computer's fault. So yeah, oh, never mind. Yeah, that's just a Firefox thing like I said. But yeah, as you can see here, it does web browsing perfectly fine, alright? And so, yeah, it's pretty cool, alright, that I can do that stuff. And also, it uses GPU acceleration a lot for the videos, which is pretty good. And as you can see here, we have our NVIDIA Quadro K610M. Alright, but anyways, enough with these general usage benchmarks. You guys want to see how well this thing does in the gaming benchmarks, don't you? Well, anyways, let's go ahead and do the thing that you all have been waiting for, right? Let's see how well this thing handles games in the Big 25. Why am I saying Big 25? That's so cringe. Starting off with a light game here, we have Brick Rigs running at 1080p with the lowest settings and epic resolution scale. This means that the game is running natively at 1080p and this laptop is struggling. Averages of a perfect 30 FPS and 1% lows down to 24 mean that the game was barely playable with these mostly low settings. The game was luckily able to figure out how to use our overclocked Quadro though, so it's not all bad. Brick Rigs is barely a pass, as in some instances, you may need more FPS, like when you're going online. Which, yeah, if you know Brick Rigs online mode, yeah, it gets pretty laggy. Alright, but on to the next benchmark. Next up, we have the extremely intensive BeamNG drive running at 1024 by 768 with the lowest settings, and the game is mostly playable. Even though the game looks like complete crap, it is running with a decent averages of 41 FPS and 1% lows down to 34 when the car was being destroyed. These FPS results mean that it is very playable, although it does need some Vaseline rubbing into eye quality of settings. So yeah, if you guys know BeamNG with the lowest settings, well, I mean, you can literally see it. It looks like complete garbage compared to high ultra. So yeah. Anyways, on to the next benchmark. Next up, we have Breakfast, and unfortunately, the game does not know how to run on our Quadro, so we have to use the Intel HD 4600i GPU, which is much slower. The game is running at 1024 by 768 with the lowest settings, and even with these extremely low settings, the game is running poorly with a 22 FPS average and 1% lows of 14. The game is very much not playable, as this is a fast-paced game, and it shows in my gameplay on it. As you can see, I'm like crashing left and right. Wreckfest is a fail, but maybe it could have been a pass if it used our overclocked Quadro. Next up, we have Crisis. This is a game which represents how very old but intensive games will run, and this laptop can run it. Crisis is running at 1366 by 768 with the medium preset, and the game looks alright on the screen and is delivering us a solid average of 34 FPS with 1% lows that dip barely below 30, which is 28. Overall, Crisis is very playable, although a little bit input laggy, so don't expect to be too competitive with it, but it's alright. And you can even go up to 1080p if you use the lowest settings. Next up, we have the moderately demanding indie game with Muck here. Muck is running at 1080p with the lowest settings, which doesn't look too terrible. Muck is definitely playable with these settings, as shown the averages of 35 FPS and 1% lows of 28, which is decently playable for a game like Muck, which doesn't need low input lag. Muck also doesn't need much VRAM, even at full HD with the lowest settings, as it is using barely 500 megs of this stuff. Overall, Muck is very playable and a very solid pass with this old laptop. On to the next benchmark. Up next here with Necess, which is an optimized 2D title, and the game is running great. The game is much more demanding, but it still ran alright with averages of 41, 1% lows of 16 when starting the world. These results were achieved at 1080p max settings, and the game looks great. There are a few stutters, but they get ironed out as you play. Like I said earlier, when starting the world, you get 1% lows of 16 compared to averages of 41. Overall, once again, laptop can easily handle it. Well, I mean, it depends on your definition of easily, but it's playable, right? On to the next benchmark. Next up, we have the Long Drive here, which is a pretty demanding game, especially on the CPU side of things. The game is running at 1080p with the lowest settings selected, and we are seeing a decent result with averages of 57 FPS and 1% lows of 28 when things are loading in. We do meet the RAM requirement, which is extremely important as we get some pretty decent frame times. Still though, there's definitely going to be some stutters and pauses. And overall, in summary, this game is running nicely with lower settings. Maybe you can even turn up some of the settings if you wanted, since we have 57 FPS. Maybe you can run at like 1080p medium settings and get a 30 FPS average. Who knows? You decide. Next up, we have the source game Gary's Mod here running at 1080p with the highest settings with no anti-aliasing, and we are seeing a decent result of 55 FPS with on average and 1% lows of 46. This result could drop if we are on a much more demanding map or playing multiplayer. But overall, for simple tasks like what I'm doing currently, on the gameplay, it is very playable, alright? But yeah, if you guys know multiplayer, you know it's pretty laggy. Alright, but on to the next benchmark. Another old source game here, we have Half-Life 2. This is the latest Steam version, which is much more demanding than the original 2004 version, and we are running at 1080p with the highest settings selected, with no anti-aliasing. This laptop is achieving a solid average FPS of 93, 1% lows down to 61 when things get tough. The scene could very much change these results, but overall, this is definitely a solid pass, and very playable. And it is almost a high refresh rate experience. Second to last benchmark here, we have the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, which is the fourth in the series of Elder Scrolls. And the game is running at 1080p with the high settings, and it is achieving a solid average of 64 FPS and 1% lows down to 41, especially when you're in the open world. But this is the easier prison area though. As the open world, you'll be seeing lower FPS like I said. You'll be expecting in the 30s on this laptop. Overall, this game looks beautiful at high settings, especially with those fancy effects like bloom for example, which is used a lot in this era of games. And it runs like so, alright? On to the last benchmark. Last up, we have Minecraft Java Edition with Sodium, Iris, and Worst. If you don't know, these are mods that like optimize the game, except Worst is also kind of a hacked client, but it's not, I don't really use it to hack, I just use it for, its performance features. And we are getting a decent result of 90 FPS on average with 1% lows of 48 when generating chunks. This result is achieved with at 1080p fancy settings with 8 chunks of render distance, which is pretty good. The CPU is struggling though when generating chunks as it frequently spikes up to 100% usage when moving. You can easily see this when I start walking around on the gameplay. Shaders are just a bit too intensive for the little overclocked quadro that could though. I tried with Silver's light shaders, which is a very, very optimized shader set that looks very clean. It got like 16 FPS on average at full HD. 720p though, we were seeing 24 FPS, so if you like slow motion, go for the shaders. But overall, Minecraft is very, very playable. On to the conclusion. So overall, how do I feel about this laptop? Well, it is very, very good, alright? Especially for general usage. Having 1,400 CPU Z points, which, honestly, I should include that as a benchmark. Okay, look here, how about this? Next video, I'll include it as a benchmark, alright? But anyways, I'm getting off topic here. But anyways, it is definitely very usable for modern, browsing usage, and can handle a lot of tabs with its 16 gigs of DDR3. Not only that, but it's also running in quad channels, so I'm not sure if that's an improvement, actually. Alright, but, yeah. In terms of game performance, it does alright. I mean, it plays all the indie titles that I need to, and it can run some AAA titles, and it definitely can handle BeamNG, which, that's why I need. But yeah. Anyways, I do feel like it was definitely worth it saving this laptop, alright, replacing the thermal paste. But guess what? It uses an MXM GPU, so we could theoretically upgrade to an RTX 2080 Ti mobile if, if there's enough likes in this video. How about this? 100 likes on this video. Actually, 100 is way too unachievable. How about this, okay? Once I hit 1,000 subs, I'll go ahead and also upgrade this GPU, alright? Well, that is if I do hit 1,000 subs. But, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, guys. This laptop was definitely worth saving, alright? And see you in the next video, alright? And remember to always subscribe! I had to limit myself there because it was going to get way too loud.